Oh yeah, and I I want to ask you, Wolfman, because I know you come from or I mean I know you're well read in a lot of areas, but like typically the Wolfman I know
Mhm.
that I see on the internet and stuff is very much a noir, and kind of smoky detective, flawed detective guy, perhaps drinks a little too much, but he means well, and then a lot of times, like we know in the Elroy books, right, and James Elroy, a lot of times the guy that picks the girl ends up having the better things happen to him and stuff.
Mm.
But is this what draws you to a lot of Western stuff, or like have you always been into like a lot of this like Western type literature?
You know, I was I didn't really get into reading westerns until like kind of my adulthood. Like I've
Right.
been reading crime fiction for a long time before I got into reading westerns.
Totally.
I always liked western films, but for some reason I never I never really wanted to sit down and read one. But a friend of mine got me reading this is a while back. He was like, "You need to read the Lonesome Dove books. They're really good." And
Oh yeah.
I'd seen the miniseries and loved it. So I started reading those, and I was like, "Okay, these are really good." And so that kind of broke me of my prejudice against reading a western,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, I always just kind of assumed that it would just be a lot of like slow, like landscape,
Scenic.
just like
Yeah.
riding around. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like not a lot actually going on. I don't know why I thought that, but and I love McMurtry too, but he's like way more humorous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that Lamore doesn't have a sense of humor, but uh, yeah, I think I guess because he comes maybe more from like a more pulpy background, but he's treating the stakes with a little more seriousness.
Yeah. No, totally.
But
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. Like
mm,
I like sci-fi, and I like crime fiction. I like, I always think I like this gritty stuff, but like all, you can strip away grittiness and bam, pow, pow. You can strip all that stuff around, but like there's the, when it's when you have an author that truly understands men and women, and you can insert really any scenery, any kind of conflict or
yeah,
anything, any enemy or anything you want, when you have an author, because that was what I was most impressed about, was actually the romance in the Louis L'Amour
hmm
stuff. And like I get it. I mean, the guy, maybe not when by the time he wrote this book, because this was his big break, but later, I mean, he was a killer. I mean, he was my great grandfather, who I never had the chance to meet. But like, when my mom, I was saying I was reading this, my mom was like, "Oh, that was your great grandfather's favorite." I mean, like he like the middle of my Hondo book has the super alpha, like, here, order the rest of my books type thing,
yeah,
like in the
yeah,
middle of mine,
Yeah.
like, hey bro, like, before you finish this, get the box set, because you're not like, don't be without Louis. After you finish the book, you're gonna be wishing you had another one of my books. And
Mhm.
yeah, that you can mail in, and I guess he did that all the time. And he was just like a conservative, kind of just salt of the earth kind of man. Worked worked at, like, I think it was a department store, back when that was kind of more of like an honorable job for a man, like a place that
Mhm.
sold suits, menswear, and things like that. But he would
Yeah.
read every Louis book, and he made these. I think, even when men don't think they want the romance in the book, they want it. He knew what the men wanted to read, because, like you said, men are the romantics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, I had the same feeling, of thinking that I would be bored with westerns, but and obviously I got into Louis L'Amour because of you, Wolfman. But
Mm-hmm. Same.
as soon as I saw Wolfman
Oh,
mention
hey,
it,
right on.
I basically, yeah, as soon as I saw you mention it on Twitter, I had this immediate memory of being a kid and seeing. I remember used to see, like, you talk about the huge list of his books. Like, I would see, you know, the older guys, like older teenagers, or you'd be at some friend of your dad's house and his bookshelf would have, like, 20 Louis L'Amour books or whatever. I remember that name, and I remember dudes having those books and reading them. And as a kid,
Yeah.
being too young, but like, oh, that looks cool. Like, one day I'm going to read it. But then, yeah, as I got older, I was like, I don't know if I want to read westerns, but
Mm.
it's so much more than that. It's so good. Like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
past 3 months, I've gone through like ten of his books. You can just fly through them, and
Totally.
he
Yeah.
understands people so well. He understands. It's just
Oh yeah.
the
It's
relational
palatable. It's like
aspect. It could be
It's like
about
an
any. Yeah, it's so
It's like an
good.
artist that knows how to make a hit record. It's like it's one of those guys, like we can have our opinions of like, oh, that's too pop, that's too commercial friendly, but it's like, no, man, there's something to being able to just make a hit and hit after hit and experiment a little bit. Like you say, wrote a little sci-fi, like, you know, just dabble a little bit, but like stay within, you know, a little bit of a lane, know your target audience, know who's gonna fill out that little card in the middle of the book, like, you know, and order the next one. You know who's gonna do that. He had his own, like, was it the Sackett family? Like he had his own like kind of series with one family. I think was what kind of, he would have little series that he would write and stuff. But I got this book also because of Wolfman, but because I saw him talking about it, because I remember like the cover of my book, and it's similar to a lot of the other ones. I think this is just the 30th anniversary one, but the cover of mine, I used to see men reading stuff like this all the time, like in the 90s, like kind of just like older guys.
Exactly.
But I would be so stupid that like I would, because like you these look like a book that doesn't have words in it, if you know what I'm saying. Like you look at it and you're like, I feel like he's just looking at the planes inside that book. Like there's no actual word. Like he's not reading anything. But I'm like, no, there's actually beautiful words in these things. And what my reading experience with this was, I had gone to Western Nevada, and everybody that passes away, the antiquing's real big out there. There's a lot of senior citizens out there, and antiquing's really big, and we always go to the antique stores. And for me, I've never been a big like antique guy, but since I love books, especially recently, I love reading so much, I clean up over there. When the boomers and the older people than the boomers pass away, Louie, they got semi trucks full of Louie books that go into these antique stores. I mean, like they sell them in bundles of four for $5. A lot of times twine, like very Western twine, like in a stack. It's really cool. So I bought 4 of them, and I'm reading it, and I finally got to on the list, and it was cool because we had a really nice, peaceful week at the lake when I finished this. We were doing some like really, you know, cool spiritual stuff, honoring a deceased family member out there, and like scattering ashes. And we were renting this like cabin. And so I basically read like 50 or 60 pages of this, just like in this nice woodsy cabin, reading some Louie, you know, at a very peaceful kind of serene closure moment. And it was really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great, man. Like this past February, me and my girlfriend went to Durango for Valentine's Day. And when we went, I brought 2 Louie books with me. I brought High Lonesome and Tucker. And I was, I think I finished High Lonesome while we were there and started reading Tucker, but we stayed at the Strater Hotel, which I found out after we booked it and got into the room that was Louis L'Amour's favorite hotel in Durango. And he used to stay there, like he would live there off and on. And they have like the room that he always stayed in. They have it like basically it's like a suite that you can rent. It's like the Louis L'Amour room. And so like there's tons of like little used bookstores all around, and they're all chock full of Louis L'Amour books. And I got this limited edition paperback collection of all of his crime stories.
Nice.
Which I haven't read yet. I'm kind of saving it. But one thing that I thought was so interesting, like reading like Hondo, and like he has a lot of books that are just named after the main character. You know, it's like a one-word title. So like Hondo, Tucker, and Flint. But like the thing that has been so impressive to me is that like all 3 of like those 3 guys I just named, Hondo, Tucker, and Flint, all 3 of them are completely different kinds of guy. Like they all have certain things in common. Like they're all honorable, you know, they're all capable and tough. But like you could sit those 3 down at the same table and you'd be able to tell them all apart, and they would interact differently and they'd have disagreements and stuff. Because you think a guy that writes that much, he's probably just writing the same story over and over and over again. But that is not the case at all. And that's part of what is just so like staggering about this guy's talent.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. Because I was like, you know, I've heard some inside baseball talk from some people that are published about like guys like James Patterson, who also have like Alex Cross and like characters like that. And some people say like, you know, James Patterson's a hack because like for one, a lot of his books will just be following the same character archetype. And look, it sells. Who am I to tell him he's wrong? But you know, apparently he has a bunch of ghostwriters too to keep his volume up. apparently.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, especially in his later years and stuff. But like, I don't know that you could ghostwrite for Louie. You know what I mean? Like, I would imagine that. I would imagine this probably isn't even his best book, but like, just because I usually your first big break one, I feel like 5 or 6 books after this one is when he probably really like started just truly spreading out and really maybe taking risks, but I guess I mean like different types of guys, like you said, kind of because this character has existed for a long time, this Hondo type character, but I can imagine that some of these other guys that he wrote were kind of more Louie originals.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that's part of what's crazy is like you talk about ghostwriters, and yeah, I'm certain that's not the case with Louie, because he makes a great point in his memoir about writing westerns of like the people, the average Western reader, particularly back when he was writing these, like they know their shit. So like if you're writing a Western and you've got the wrong type of cactus growing in the wrong area, or you've got a guy who's carrying a type of gun that wasn't popular until like 5 years later, like people will chuck your fucking book in the trash. So he was like, the amount of research that goes into this is like very painstaking. He was like, you can't just phone in a Western.
No, it's too rich of a genre. It's too rich of a genre.
I love about all his writing. Yeah, I love that part of his writing. He always makes reference to the plant life that's around and like how to use it, and you can tell he's either he's both lived it and he's collected the stories from like old timers that really lived it, and it's not it's very real. Everything from the different plants that were used as medicine and like how to build a fire, what things to use that don't cause a lot of smoke, and then like the little phrases, like he always says, "Step into the leather" when he's talking about getting in the saddle, little stuff like that you can tell he was around real dudes that lived that.
We're going to get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode.